Hello and welcome to the channel. Hopefully this channel's going to get going now. Got a couple of videos that I want to put together, and so as this is kind of my first official channel video, I just want to introduce myself a little bit. So I'm Dan and I'm well into wildlife photography, but trying to do things a little bit different from the norm. So I do a lot of standard wildlife photography, as you would imagine, with a big prime lens, but I also try to get some quite different intimate shots using camera traps. I know they're very much on the rise now, and more people are using camera traps than ever before. Oh, it's a beautiful little J on the wall, but it's still relatively new. I know when I was learning and setting mine up and building all my own trap, it was quite sparse in terms of the amount of information that was out there. There's a couple of people that definitely I've lent on in terms of gaining information from them. One of those being Richard Peters, who's a Nikon ambassador. He produces some fantastic images and has got a great book around camera trapping. Tom Mason, he's another fantastic camera trapper. And then there's some Facebook groups which are really worthwhile getting involved with, and I've got quite friendly with a couple of people off there, Martin Yelland and a Tim Terrell, and they're not all necessarily in the UK, from lots of different places, and they produce lots of different styles of camera trapping. So I'm going to take you on one of my deployments of a camera trap today, show you what it's like, show you what I'm trying to achieve, show you the setup, and hopefully give you some ideas for setting up your own camera trap, and hopefully give you an idea of what the images look like at the end. I'll take you through some of the images at the end, if I'm lucky enough to get some. That's the beauty of camera trapping. You rarely get success, you get far more failures than you do successes, but in some ways I think that adds to it. It makes it a little bit more exciting. So I'll talk a little bit more when we get to the location, my setup and what I'm trying to achieve. Get a little bit closer to where I'm hoping to set up the camera trap, and as you can probably tell, the weather is bloody awful. It's certainly not the kind of day I'd be out with my camera trying to take some stills, but camera trapping is a little bit different because you can set your camera trap up in a way that, you know, even when it's throwing it down with rain, you can still produce some great images. So it's something that I quite like to do. I'm off out tomorrow with my camera, but at the same time I can leave this camera trap running and recording, and I can leave this out for several days or weeks, and it's trying to capture images in the same way as I would be doing if I was sat in a hide for that length of time. But of course I can't do that, and that's the beauty of camera trapping. You know, you can leave your camera trap out for long periods of time and capture some images that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to capture. There's loads of wildlife in this little nook that I'm taking you to now, so I'm just going to go a little bit quiet until I get there. So I'm talking a little bit quieter now, mainly because we're very close to a fox den, a badger set, and also in this valley there's lots of pheasant, and as I've been walking down there's been at least 8 or 9 female pheasant with a male pheasant. So the fact that we've got lots of wildlife nearby, try to make as much disturbance, as little disturbance as possible. I'm going to show you what my aim is and what I'm trying to achieve. So where I've come to, I'll just show you. We've got here a single post. That single post is going to be my focal point, so I'm going to try and attract the badgers to that post and the fox to that post, and then I'm going to use some trees at the sides, either sides, to locate the flashes, and then I'm going to attach the main camera to this tree here, pointing back at that post. That means that I can get my focusing points right, less chance of missing shots, and it also means that I can be quite creative with my lighting. I don't like putting flashlights, particularly to nocturnal species, too low. I like them coming down high, so that it doesn't affect their vision too much. It's not too much of an issue here because there's no predators for them, and they're nowhere near a main road or anything like that, so it's not going to be an issue in that way. But I try to just limit my impact on wildlife as much as possible. So that's my plan. I'm going to start setting things up, and then I'll show you when it's all in place what it looks like. I don't know if you can see that, but we've got a doe roe deer just running through. Absolutely beautiful. She knows something's around, and she knows that something's not quite right, but she can't work out where I am, which is why she's kind of doubling back on herself. And that's wildlife photography. I've come with my camera trap. Didn't think there'd be anything worth photographing with a standard camera today. I hope the camera has picked up what I've just seen. I've just had an encounter with a female roe deer. She was probably at times only 5-6 metres away from me. She knew I was there, but she couldn't work out where I was, and I think the volume of the rain coming down just masked my footsteps enough for me to be able to move along until she caught sight on me, and she had a fixed glare, straight eye-to-eye contact. I love that. And at that point she's doubled back on herself and gone back down, further down the valley. But incredible, absolutely incredible. If I'd come with a camera to take a photograph, I wouldn't have seen anything. But every time I come without my camera, I have experiences like this, just magical. So there's the camera in place. I've just given the lens a good wipe, and you can see I use 2 cargo straps to fix it in place to a tree, and then I'm just going to camouflage that in a little bit in a moment. I'm thoroughly wet through. It's absolutely peeing it down now, but I'll just go for everything set up and ready to leave, so I'll just talk you through everything very quickly whilst I'm here, and then I'll give you a bit more information on the way back. Okay, as you can see, we've got the camera trap housing there, slightly camouflaged, and I'll explain more about that later, with the sensor just sat underneath. Our target post is there, so I've just put some peanuts and dog biscuits around the bottom. Use both peanuts and dog biscuits, because if we just use peanuts and there's a fox in the area, it probably won't touch the peanuts, but dog biscuits, they can't resist that. And then over to the side here, you can just about make it out. That's my key light, so that's focused quite sharply on the log to give the main beam of light. And then over at the back there, again, just see it in the tree, that's my fill light, set quite wide angle, just to fill the scene, give a bit of light onto the foreground, background, so it's not in complete darkness. And then my little bit of backup is just in the setting off in the background. We have a trail camera, and I'll explain the purpose of the trail camera shortly. So all that's left for me to do now is to walk out, and I'll give you a little bit more information as we walk out, what I've done, why I've done it, what I expect to find. Okay, so I thought I'd just spend a minute explaining what I've done and the kind of the story behind it, really. It's got a real special place in my heart, this little area. I discovered it during lockdown, and it was a bit of a saviour really for me in lockdown. As a wildlife photographer, I did what every wildlife photographer did, and I spent a lot of time photographing birds in the garden, setting up perches in the garden, and it was great, and I got some lovely images, but it's not the same as going out into the wild, tracking animals. That's what I enjoy doing. I'm not a sit in a hide person. I'm a get out there, find it, track it, photograph it, leave without it knowing that I'm there kind of photographer. So I used to go out walking every day. You were allowed to go out for a walk, so I'd go out walking every day with my camera, and by chance came across a field where I saw a hare. Thought fantastic, and I dropped into the field, and I was in my all my camouflage clothes as I always am. I managed to get quite close and get quite a beautiful portrait of a hare, which I'll pop on screen now. So after photographing the hare for some time, it moved off and moved down into a little, so I'm getting really wet. It moved off into like a little brook area. So I followed it down just to see where it had gone, and discovered just an absolute wonderland of wildlife. Badgers, foxes, deer, pheasants, sparrowhawk, you name it, I have found it down in this little brook area. It is my absolute haven. I keep it quite secret. I don't take many people to it. I've taken a few people to show it, but not many. And I visit there regularly. So that's where the passion for camera trapping came about, because as much time as I spent there, by the time the badgers or the foxes were coming out, it was that dark, my ISO was that high, my images were pretty useless. So I explored alternatives. I tried flash on top of my camera. Didn't like that at all. The images weren't particularly pleasing. They didn't look, they looked a little bit artificial, if I'm honest. So I abandoned that and then tried camera trapping, and I'll show you some of the images at the end of this video of what I've achieved camera trapping in this area, and I'll show you some of the images that I've got whilst I've been down there with my camera in hand. I do both because I love to see them. For me, seeing the animals is as important as the photograph. And to be honest with you, it was a lifeline during lockdown. I spent countless hours in this area, and then unfortunately the set was baited. Some absolute waste of oxygen decided that it would be fun to dig the badgers out just after they'd had cubs, and I got photographs of the cubs for sport, to see them ripped up by dogs. The police were involved, and there's been lots of work around that. And then so since then I've spent lots of time monitoring the sets. I monitor 4 sets in the area now, keep real close eye on them, regular visits. I've recorded them all with the Badger Trust and the local wildlife groups and the local badger groups, just to keep my eye on them, keep the profile on. I put trail cameras in the woods nearby, so that if there was any further instance of baiting, we'd hopefully get some images that I could use to hopefully gain a prosecution. So yeah, it's been an interesting time. It's been a little bit of a heartache at times. It's been a saviour at times, but I absolutely love it. So I'm going to walk away now and leave it. It always feels a bit strange leaving your camera and all that equipment out in the field, unsupervised, unprotected, but you know, we'll see what happens, and hopefully we'll get some images that I'll put right onto the end if these are the images for tonight. And I'll add a little extra onto this video when I go and collect it, and see what we get as we walk back down. So you might be thinking, why on earth deploy a camera trap when it's peeing it down with rain? What's the point of that? But actually, I've had successes with my camera trap in all conditions. I got a bucket list shot where I got a photograph of a badger when it had snowed, which was no easy feat, I can tell you. But of all the images, I love it when it's raining. When it's raining, they just look soggy and cute, if that's even a thing. The flash bounces off the water on their fur, and it just creates a really nice image. So whenever we're going to get rain, I do tend to put my camera trap out. In addition, less likely for people to be out, so less chance of someone discovering it. You're not going to go walking in the woods, are you, when it's peeing it down with rain? So you've got that advantage. And yeah, it's just a nice way to do a little bit of photography. So fingers crossed we'll get some nice images from it. Okay, so top tip: if you're putting a camera trap out in the rain, make sure that your camera trap is off the ground. I've learnt from experience, when it's raining, and particularly in woodland, when you get big drops landing on the ground, you get lots of splashback and it's mucky and it goes all over the camera lens, but well, the housing lens, and ruins your shots. So off the ground, up as high as you want it without it looking unnatural and unpleasing. I always try to be on eye level with the animal. I think that gives you the best shots, but yeah, definitely not on the deck looking up in raining weather, because you're guaranteed disappointment. Camera trap's been out now for a couple of nights. Weather's been horrendous, so should get some nice wet soggy badger pictures, hopefully, maybe even a wet fox picture, you never know. Going collecting the camera trap it's a really exciting time. It's a real kind of sense of what you're going to get when you open that box, and if you know, have you managed to capture anything? And I love that excitement. It's a bit like Christmas morning. I've said that in the past. It's like Christmas morning collecting a camera trap. So we'll have a look, see what we get. Fingers crossed we've got some good images. Fingers crossed that the flashes have gone off when they were supposed to. Fingers crossed that the batteries have survived in everything. Fingers crossed that the weather hasn't seeped in anywhere and caused breakages with anything, and the wind and branches falling down, and that the animals turned up. So many variables, but that's camera trapping, and that's what makes it exciting. So we'll see what we get when we get there. As I approach where I've left the camera trap, I always have mixed feelings. My immediate thought is, will it still be there? Has someone been and pinched it? And then the second thing is the excitement. What have we captured on it? So get a little bit closer now. I'll do another little video when we're there, but I tend to have to whisper just because of the animals that might be present in this area. So fingers crossed. So just like when I came and deployed it, full of wildlife, I've just disturbed a load of pheasant and a female deer. She's just ran up kind of that way, and keeping quiet because it bottlenecks up there and she's got nowhere to get out, and I don't want to frighten her. So I'm hoping that maybe she'll loop back around the back of me. So I'll show you what we've got. Everything's still here. Camera trap's still here, which is the first thing. That's really good. And then if we look at the post where I put things yesterday, there's bait, peanut butters and dog biscuits. Everything's gone. So we've got a real good chance. Just quick check. Everything's still firing, the flashes are going. You can see the flashes going there, so there's a real good chance we've got something on there. I'm very excited. Okay, so we've unbuckled all the camera trap, got it here. So I thought what would be quite interesting if we do a bit of an unveil and have a look at what we've got for the first time. So I've not seen it either, so I'm just going to start unclipping it and then I'll have a look and see what we've got inside. Straight away I'm looking, thinking everything's dry inside, so I know that everything's worked as it should do. I'm going to just switch off the triggers and I'm going to put it onto, right, okay, squirrels, lots of squirrels. I've got a badger, I've got badgers, yeah, I've got some good shots of badgers, mainly just around the base of the tree. Oh, it's me putting it out. Yeah, so we've got a couple of shots of the badgers, nothing amazing. They didn't lean up onto the post like I'd have hoped they would have leaned up onto the post to get the peanut butter that I've smeared around the top. All that peanut butter looks like it's still there, so perhaps they'll come back and finish that off tonight. The squirrels have had a good go at it anyway. Yeah, we'll have a look when we get back. I don't think it's been ideal, but that's camera trapping. The camera's fired. The camera's fired when badgers have been in front of it, squirrels have been in front of it, so we've got some footage. Perhaps might not be the footage we were after. I really wanted one of them leaning up onto the post to try and get access to the peanut butter that I put up on the top, and they haven't done that. It seems to be mainly the squirrels that have got the stuff on the top, but still some successes, and I'll have a look at the lighting, see what I think about the lighting. They look a little dark, so I might increase the ISO a little bit. I try to increase the ISO rather than increase the flash intensity, just being very conscious of the fact that we've got nocturnal species and I don't want them to be stunned by the lights, so I never go more than a 16th power on the flashes, so and they were both set at that, so if that's not been strong enough I'll increase the ISO and get the images that way rather than increasing the flash speed, flash power. So take everything back now. Some successes, some not. Sparrowhawk just flew in and landed on the post just at the side of me. That's what I paused for then. Took one look at me and has flown back off again. It's an incredible place, this, it really is. So we'll have a walk back and we'll have a talk about what we've got. So when I got home and I checked the camera trap and put the images onto my computer, you could see that the images weren't really what I was after. So I went back to the same location and placed my camera trap up into the tree facing down onto the area I wanted the badgers to be. The badgers were not afraid to oblige, and they climbed up onto the post, and I managed to get some lovely images of the badgers looking up towards the camera as they were having a little go at the peanut butter that I'd placed onto the tree. So I think it just goes to show that it's not always what you aim for. It's a trial and error camera trapping, but if you keep going, eventually you should get some quality images. Thanks for watching the video, and I look forward to meeting you in the next one.